Natasha, and thank you so much for joining me today while I have a couple of fun techniques, of course, and these have been super fun. Now, this first one here is super simple. I'm going to be using some Reinkers for this. This is one of the reasons that I advocate for purchasing the Reinker when you buy an ink pad. That way, you sort of use it as A, an investment, but B, there are so many techniques out there that are good for Reinkers too. Now, of course, for this one, I am going to be using the Simon Hurley dye inks. You can use water with these to dilute them ever so slightly. So this is like a concentrated form of the ink, of course. So I just have 3 little dishes here that I'm going to put a tiny little dot or 2 into each one. And then I'm going to use a little pipette to just pipe some water into each one. Now, it doesn't matter. I'm just creating some dye ink, essentially. There are definitely other things you can do this with, so give them a go. I would suggest even food coloring would work here, because I am going to be creating some sort of texture. Now, this is sort of a 2-for-1 deal, and I could have fit so much into this video, but I'm going to sort of keep it as on track as I can. Now, I'm just giving these a quick little stir around with the end of my paintbrush. I'm using some paper towel today. Now, if my kids are doing this activity, I often cut them into fun shapes, kind of like this heart. But for me today, I don't need all the gorgeous shapes. I'm happy with the color. So I just pull a square off my roll of handy towel. All different handy towel has different patterns and things, but I'm going to utilize the pattern in this one today. That's why I want a piece of solid cardstock underneath this, because as I said, 2-for-1 deal. Yes, we can use the gorgeous paper towel, and this can create all sorts of techniques. But I also want to use the scraps from underneath. So, first of all, this part is just really fun. It's just laying down color. Now, I don't have any rhyme or reason as to how I'm putting this one down today. I am just honestly going for gold. If you are interested, I used the shooting star, which is the yellow. I used traffic cone, which is the sort of orangey red. And I used prom queen, which is the pink. Now, these are all stunning colors. You could add in as many colors as you want to. Now, I will tell you that if you leave this technique overnight, it kind of works better. But you know how impatient I am, and so I was keen to get things moving and keep going forward with all of the projects. So this does work better if you can add a little squirt or 2 of water, but if you don't, I would suggest you leave it overnight, or at least for a decent amount of time to sort of seep through. I'm going to add some water to, of course, help the process, and this is going to help it seep through onto the page underneath, because the page underneath is actually what I'm going to be creating with today. Now, there are lots of different videos on my channel about how to use up napkins and paper towels in your card making, so that's what I would use the top layer of this for. But I'm going to use the scrap layer, the underneath layer, which is just as stunning. Now, this is me being impatient, and I am going to try this with a heat tool. If you want to do this properly, or you get addicted to it like I did the first time round, then just put this aside. Just put it aside and let it dry naturally. That will look stunning even better. But if you aren't, then you can do this. And I promise you, this is one of those things that I seriously get addicted to. And then, of course, you can actually cut the paper towel into shapes and then sort of do it directly onto your card base. So that would be super fun as well. But for this one, I'm just doing a big sheet underneath there so that I can get lots of card bases out of it. And of course, I can't help myself from playing and adding in some more color. Now, as I said, if I were patient, I'd put this to the side, but here's the reveal. Now, at the moment, I know that you're thinking, I mean, it's okay, it's nice, but just hold on. This just looks stunning. Even when you see it up close a little bit more, just the texture and the colors melting together and blending. I love this, and so I just want to show you. I will actually create this into a card in this video, a super simple but a card that really shows off the background. Now, I've sort of got 3 fun techniques that I'm trying to all put into this video today, so we're moving on. And this, if you've just seen another video that I created where I created the animals with just 2 shapes, so just hearts and just circles. Now, these are the leftover scraps from where I die cut my ladybugs. If you haven't seen that video, go back and watch it. Super, super simple, where we made animals using just 2 shapes. That's it. And so these are the scraps, and when I saw these, I thought I couldn't resist using them for something. So I have a few of the Distress Oxide sprays. Now, I think I have 5. I have a white one as well, but this is all I have, and I don't intend to purchase any more. I sort of like these. They are fun to use, and I'm glad I bought them. I would buy them again if I didn't already have them, but I'm not one of those people who need to have a full set of anything. I bought these colours on purpose because they are somewhat, so the primary colours, I bought sort of a pink, which of course would be the red, a yellow and a blue, and that way I can mix these and sort of add them all together without them making mud. Then I, for some reason, bought the Villainous potion one, which is a dark purple, and does take over things, but nonetheless, this is so much fun. Boy, did I have fun. And you're going to see I actually end up printing these on sort of a muck sheet. I have a muck sheet there in the middle, and I just end up printing that leftover ink because although these stencils are just paper and they are not going to last forever, I thought I may as well use them instead of just popping them into the paper scrap bin as well. So I am taking these 3 colours. In fact, this one is the Saltwater Taffy. Then the yellow one is the mustard seed, and then I'm going to bring in a blue in just a minute, and that is the tumbled glass. So that muck sheet in the middle there, it ends up looking a bit crazy, but sometimes I find that is fun for busy backgrounds too. Now this one here I'm going to leave. I think that looks stunning as is, and I'm just going to have the 2 colours. So now I'm bringing in the tumbled glass and just not worrying too much about the edges of the stencil and sort of just going with it the best that I can, because this doesn't need to be perfect. This is going to be backgrounds, and I was really just having a good time and using these up. Now, as you can see here, this is definitely one of those techniques that once I get started, I feel like I can't stop. It is so easy with the spray tops just to keep going. It is very, very easy. It makes it really easy. You could just use some spray bottles yourself and have some water reactive dye inks in there. That would work perfectly fine. I've done that before. You can add some mica if you want some shimmer or something like that. This is bringing in the Villainous potion, and boy, this is a strong colour. But again, still making stunning backgrounds. So I'm going to save you the rest of the playtime. I had a great time, but these were some of the backgrounds I created, and these are just stunning. Now I am going to turn these into cards, and some have already been turned into cards. Some you'll see featured in other videos, but I'm going to show you one today as well. Now all of these colors do dry back a little bit because they are oxide, so that is one good thing. But this background, I just can't get over this one. So I'm going to cut this up and start by using this one as a background. Then I also want to show you a really simple focal point that is one of my favorite go-tos. I think it's a stunning flower that it creates. Now, if you had a rectangle die and you wanted to cut this down, you could just sort of plonk it where you want it to go and run it through your die cutting machine. But for whatever reason, I prefer trimming it, and I just sort of, pick and choose the pieces that I want there to appear. Now, I have all of these hearts cut from a Stacking Hearts die set, which is a super handy set of dies to have in your stash. These are just cut out of some plain white cardstock. Now, I used the Prom Queen colour from Simon Hurley in the background, so I thought I would use that again for these hearts. Now, this is just a finger dobber. These ones happen to be stacking ones. I don't think these are available anymore, even though I love them. They came in this little handy container. I absolutely love them. I emailed about them to see if they were going to be come back, but they are not. But I still love them, and I do keep them for my pigment inks. So I'm using the Prom Queen colour and just adding some ink to both sides of the heart, front and back. Just really the centre, just really that very end tip, because we are going to put together a gorgeous, very dimensional flower. Now, I'm going to save you this and go through all of these because I'm doing the exact same thing. I'm trying to get roughly the same amount of ink on each petal, but just, I don't have to be too particular about it. Once they are all done, the next thing that you need to do is fold these all in half. Now, if you want to, you can truly just use your fingers and fold these in half. If you are keen to get a really clean line, then you might want to use a trimmer like this. I have a scoring tool and a cutting blade on my trimmer, which is super handy. This is the one from Dress My Craft, and they sell the replacement scorer and trimmer blades as well. Of course, I will link to everything down in the description box below, even if you just want to check out what the product is. So I'll leave the links there for that. So I have scored these all first, just makes life super, super easy. And then I am going to fold all of these over in half. You don't have to be particular. This is not tricky at all. If you know me, you know I like super simple crafting. Now, the next part here is sort of just a personal preference thing. I have a little bit of double-sided tape, and I'm going to create sort of a sticky base to pop this onto. So I just put down a little bit of double-sided tape there. Then I am just going to cut out a very rough little circle. Nobody's going to see this, but it just creates a base, a very sticky base that I can put all of my petals onto. You could use liquid glue, but I find honestly that the double-sided tape sort of holds it firmer in place so that things don't shift around. So that's my preference. So I put on one petal, and then you want to take the next petal and I sort of tuck it in between the opening. Now you want all of the openings of the hearts to go in the same direction. So I'll show you just here. They all are going to open up to the left in my case, I guess, or the top, depending on where the circle is. And then I kind of snuggle it in there, move my way around, and you'll see at the end, it doesn't matter if there is a perfect amount of space for your last petal, because nobody's really going to notice. Now, these do look stunning. I have used these on cards before, but they look stunning if you would like to have several of them on a card. Of course, you can use tiny, tiny hearts, and that way you're going to get an even smaller flower. You can see the last one here. I really just tuck it under the previous one, and exactly the same, and it looks perfect, even though there wasn't exactly the same amount of space. So a gorgeous dimensional flower, although this is good because it can flatten nicely for the male. Now, we're putting this together, and I'm going to create a little border that pops up, just because I think this sort of, with the dimension of the flower, I think there needs to be a popped up border too. So I'm quickly taking a rectangle infinity die from the Hurley infinity sets. I'm just going to cut a piece of cardstock, quickly run it through my die cutting machine, and that's going to give me a nice skinny die. I'm going to use some foam tape here, my favorite foam tape from Altenew Crafts, and there are two different widths. I love both of them, but this one fit absolutely perfectly. Now my card base here is going to be 4 1/4 by 5.5 inches. So I cut out the same sized from a card front, a 4 1/4 by 5.5 card front. So I know it's going to fit perfectly for the frame. And then my piece that I cut to go on the inside is actually going to pop there perfectly. Now this is the Cherry Blossoms stamp set from Altenew, and this just had a gorgeous little sentiment. I'm keeping this super, super simple, this card, because I really don't want to take too much away from the background. So this says, "Grateful for you." I'm going to stamp this out in some VersaFine Onyx Black ink. I love the VersaFine clear inks because they stamp crisp and solid, so I don't feel like I need to use a stamping platform or anything. Even though I would hate to ruin this panel at this point, I don't feel like I need to use it. So then I'm going to pop some double-sided tape in here. I could have used glue, but I think I get sort of a more even surface if I use the double-sided tape rather than a liquid glue. Pop this in, it's going to fit in perfectly. If your panel is a little bit too big, I would suggest before you put it all onto the card base, that's when you would sort of attach it to the back of the frame and then put all the card together. But I hope you have enjoyed all of these gorgeous ideas using things that you probably have around your home to create some of these, as well as some fabulous craft supplies. Thank you so much for joining me. All of the supplies will be listed down below, as well as a link to the Buy Me a Coffee in case you'd like to support my channel. But thank you so much, and I will see you in the next video. Thanks, bye!